Hello and welcome to this session. The topic today is hybrid projects. I had the opportunity to work in a really interesting project, but really interesting. We had teams that were working with Agile methodologies, and we had other teams or groups working in a predictive way. We took the best of the two approaches. We adapted this to the organization and we entered into this project. The project is and was the development of a PTZ camera. We started the project from the feasibility study through design, then through development, and in the end through production. So I had the opportunity to follow all those different stages of a project and to really understand how it's interesting to mix some of the methodology we use in project management. It's Christian from Vision 6D, and it's a pleasure to meet you today. What I'm going to do is to show you how with Microsoft Project we can handle projects with the two different methodologies. What I'm going to do is to show you how in a predictive project or cascaded project I can add a sub-project of type Agile. And this is interesting because during the development phase into this project we had developments that were for mechanical, optical, electronic parts, and we had software development. And we did the software development part with Agile methodologies. To give you a first view on this project here, you currently see behind me the environment, the first prototype we used, or better said, one of the initial design. This was performed by the mechanical group, and this was a CAD simulation we had during some of the first phases. With that kind of project, my job into this project was as a consultant for the different project management methodology. I was consultant with the boards of directors, and I also had the opportunity to handle the security part on the software part on this device. And of course all this is built on a kernel that is a Linux derivative kernels, and I have extensive experience in that part, so it's also on this that I worked. But my major role here was management into this project. So this part, this project, as you can see, is a project that I already started to talk about in a preceding module. We already had a module in which we showed how we integrate sub-projects into a master project, or better said, a program. We've defined different sub-projects that we integrated in a master program. What I'm going to do is to show you that the Agile part, which here is done with Microsoft Project, can also be defined as a sub-project and can be integrated with that master project. You see behind me that we had in the project a first phase, which is that kind of brown that you see, in which we did a feasibility study. After that, we had a design. It's when we started to do that CAD model in 3D that you saw. And after that, we had a marketing phase. That marketing phase wasn't the market analysis, because this was done into the feasibility study phase. It was more to make us really sure that there is a market for that device. What did we do? We did what we call a minimal viable product. And we tested it on some markets. We tested with some of the customers how their interest was. What did we do exactly? It's that we prepared some simulations. As you could see, we prepared specification, technical sheets for the camera, and we proposed it on our website. We created a new website for this. And through that, through interactions with potential customers, we looked how was the feedback to this new product. And of course, the feedback was quite good, and we decided to move ahead with the project. It's when we had the go-ahead with the design and development phases. The development phases is composed of 4 different teams, one for the mechanic, one for the optical part, one for the electronic, and a software team. In the preceding module, I've described the steps and how to integrate this into this master program. And we see that here I do not reproduce all the details of what happened, but each of those sub-projects was performed in a cascaded way. It's really simple. We've defined the requirements, we define a design, then we do the development, and then we test. So this was exactly the same for the 3 parts. Of course, in the reality, it wasn't as simple as that, and every part went its own way. But here my topic is Agile integrated in a predictive project. So with this, I show you that this way to handle the project is what we do traditionally with Microsoft project. We follow cascaded projects. This, you find it a lot into design, you find it a lot in chemical industries, for constructions, and many other industries. When it came to the software part, you see here, it's an extract also from the same project, but is completely different. You see that here we have the definitions of sprint, sprint 1, sprint 2, sprint 3. A sprint is a time box, in our case, of 2 weeks, within which a team, a development team, is concentrated on a certain number of tasks. You see here the planning of 3 of our sprints. So, talking about sprint, that way to handle a project is a base for Agile project. Agile project, we work in a context where we have full transparency and we let the team lead itself. We have some people that came first to help, like Scrum Masters, but those teams were already teams that were used to work in Agile ways. And what I've done, and what I'm going to show you now, it's how we integrate that sub-project that follows an Agile methodology, how I do integrate it in Microsoft project. And for this, I will now change my position and sit at the computer. So I have here behind me the real MS project. We left the presentation mode. Like that, you see that I'm really into MS project. And what interests me is first of all to show you as a reminder here that we could see that we have integrated sub-projects. Sub-projects for Microsoft project, they are separated files. And in each of those files, we have a certain independence where we can do things at our ways. So here you see that I have 3 sub-project files. You see the name of those files, and they correspond to the different development. The first one, the mechanical part, the second, the optical part, and the third here is the electronic part. If I open one of those sub-projects here, we find, you don't see it, but for that I will change my image and become smaller. I will even for a second be removed, and you see that we have really a sub-project in the cascaded way. Now if I continue down, you will see that we have here down a 4th sub-project. And this sub-project, of course, is also a separated file. And now I'm going to show you the content of this file. And this file, I have it here. You see that here we are once again into Microsoft project, but we are into what we call sprint planning. If you are not intensively using the agile mode of MS Project, this might be a bit unknown to you. And to understand this, so the planning in an agile project, what we do, it's that we take boxes, in our case here, of 2 weeks each. And I have 3 of those boxes. And I'm currently in this view able to do the planning of the tasks that I will perform in each of those sprints. To have you have a better understanding, here if I go and I continue to go down, there are a lot of the tasks that need to be done into this project. And all those tasks that are here are tasks that I have defined. Now, what I'm doing currently here and what we are doing into the project, it's that we are meeting with the product owner, some representative of the board also. We have in the team a Scrum Master and all the team members. And together we are discussing what needs to be done. And you see here, for example, in our project, we needed first to do a design of the general architecture of the software that will be into that PTZ camera. And for that, the electronic team worked with a new microcontroller. So the team wanted to be trained and needed to be trained on that microcontroller. So one of the first tasks in the first sprint was to have them trained during 1 week. After that, we need to do the software development. We need development kits that are going with that kind of controller. So it's this that we needed here. What I want you also to see is that each sprint starts first with a planning session. It means that we have a lot of tasks to do. What we do is that discussing with the product owner, we define priorities. And what we are doing, it's defining in which order we are going to take those different tasks. And once we've done that, we are able then to plan our sprint, to say some of those tasks or which one of those tasks are we going to handle first. This, of course, requires the team also to do an estimation of the work that is needed for each task. And if you work with MS Project, you've heard me talking about work and not duration. In Agile, and there is there a difference, we need to estimate how long are we going to work on a certain task. I will come back to this in a moment. So what I want you to see, for example, if I take the sprint number 2, I said that every sprint is starting with a planning session. I just described what we are doing in the planning session, and you see that all the sprints, they have at the end what we call a review or retrospective. It's a moment we take to analyze how did the sprint go, what can we improve. For example, it could be that, okay, the training was fine, but we see that we are missing certain parts on the real-time kernel that is inside the microcontroller, so we should maybe have an additional 1 day of training on that topic. This was, for example, something that came out, we'll see later, at one review at a certain sprint. So, you see, we have that frame, always planning of the sprint at the beginning, and a review of the sprint at the end, or a retrospective. So we can here plan the different tasks for each sprint. And if I'm going down, I'm looking for a task that was to order the microcontroller kit. I'm not sure to see it right now live. Yeah, it's the first one here on top. I know I'm going down to look at the end. So if now I have one defined task, I can simply move it like that into a sprint, and it will be part of this sprint. This is how we see at the moment into the project, how do we see this forthcoming sprint happening. Now I will take another view here into the sprints that we have here. I will take what we call the task board, and you see that into the task board we have a different representation. We have here all the tasks. It's what we call the backlog. And here we are going to define which one of the tasks we are committing to work on in the next sprint. For example, here we are going to say, okay, the next things that we are going to do is to plan the sprint 1, to do the microcontroller training. We are going to do a selection of the different microcontroller development kits. Then we are going to order it, and then we are going to do the general design of the software that will go into the PTZ camera, and we will do a review. So this is the task board, and you see that we find tasks under a column which is now called not started. It means these are tasks where we need to do things somewhere in the future. Then we have the column which is called next up. This is the column in which we commit to do those tasks next. And after that, we have one column in which we are saying tasks here are in progress. It's when we start to work on those tasks. So they will go into the column in progress. And after that, for example, if I take now planning, I can say it has now moved into in progress. Once we are done with the planning, we could move it to done here. And once it is moved to done, we see that we have a checkbox that came and that said, okay, this is done. So this is one view that we can have on this project. When you open the task board here, you can see at any time what is the situation with the different tasks. You could say, for example, next up there are those tasks here. No one is currently in progress and the team has now finished the sprint. So we could say, okay, now it's the time for everyone in the team to follow the micro training. So this will be done. So anybody now having access to this view will be able to say that the software team is currently at the microcontroller training or working on the microcontroller training. This is the situation. Once the training is done, we can move the task now to done, and we see the evolution of the situation. I will now bring those tasks back to the beginning just to give you some other view on this project. I'm still going here where there are task boards, but I'm going with you to have a look at the task board sheet. And you see that this view is a bit different than what we are used when we work with predictive tables. We have the name of the different tasks here in the middle, and then we have here a sprint allocation, meaning is that task already defined in some sprint. You see that here the first tasks we have here, they correspond to the different sprints where they are defined currently in planning the sprints. And you see that all the other tasks, that long list of tasks that we had, they are here defined in no sprint currently. I welcome anyone participating to this session. For me, it's a pleasure to see you and to see that you follow this. And now I'm going to talk of the board status. You see that we've defined here status of each task. So are the tasks started, next up, in progress, or done? Here currently I brought all the tasks at the beginning, and we saw that no one is in progress, but we have next up tasks definition here. I've jumped over this column on purpose because it's the work estimation of each task. So this is important to be done, and we've done it already for some of the tasks. This is also part of a planning session. The team is performing together the estimation. Here we are working in a situation where the project manager is not the one performing the estimation. It is up to the team. And what we noticed is that when you have a beginning of a project like we are here into those initial sprints, there is no need to be really precise in your estimations, because estimations, they depend on the difficulty of the work, they depend on the speed at which the team can work, and teams, they are also evolving during a project. There might be things that in the beginning will take a lot of time, and later on the team can go faster. And with that, with the experience the team is gaining through the project, the team is also improving its estimations. So, for that reason, it's not really important to be the most precise in the beginning, because you will perform your estimations, and after a few sprints, during the retrospective, you will improve or change the way you do the estimations for what's coming as next tasks. So no big deal. I've noticed it with a lot of teams where I'm working, especially when there are new things. There are enthusiasts who want to do a lot of things really fast, and the reality is sometimes bringing those people back to, well, we need to understand the things, do them in a certain way, do them the right way, and not to go too fast, because when you go too fast, you jump over certain things, you avoid certain things, and this stays accumulated for later on. It's what we call the technical debt. So, for that, we have now that view here on the task board sheet where the team is going to perform the estimation that you see here inside. With that, I'm going to show you here, we have the sprint board on the current sprint. You see here up. I've already shown you a bit on that. And the last point that I want to show you here with Microsoft Project, it's that, of course, Microsoft Project defines this by default. It will define 3 sprints, and the duration of each sprint is 2 weeks. In the reality, we worked with 2-week sprints, and after a certain time, we shortened them. You will be able to add as many sprints as you need. This is not what I'm going to do in this module. So far, you've seen now all the different possibilities that we have here with Microsoft Project, the different views. We are still in the same tool, the same Microsoft tool, where we handle predictive projects. So, for example, here I can give a look at the Gantt chart of this sub-project, and you see that we don't have many things apart here of tasks defined with a certain duration. Now, I will go back with you to the main file here. It's what we call the master file. And what I will show you here, it's that I have here inside the connection with the sub-project, which is the Agile one, I'm going to remove this and redo it, that you can see how do I now integrate an Agile sub-project into the master file. So to remove it, it's really simple. It's like any task. You delete the task, and I'm saying here, okay, do you really want to remove this? And I'm saying, okay. There were changes. Do I want to keep my changes? And I'm going to say, no, I want it the initial way it was. So to remember now, when you are going to insert a sub-project, you have somewhere a defined files. When you insert it into the master file, it doesn't bring any change into the sub-project file. So now to import that file, and I'm hoping to remember which one of those files it was, I'm going into project here up, and you see that we have here the possibility to define sub-projects. So I'm going on to sub-projects here, and I'm going to import the sub-project file on which we worked, that is here, that is this one here. And like any sub-project, it can be imported in two different ways. I could import it as read-only, in which case I cannot do any changes on the tasks that are within that sub-project, or here I can insert it in a way that I can also bring some changes. So I'm going here to choose to insert this, and you saw that we have now a new icon that came. That icon is similar to the one we had with the previous sub-projects here up. And if I now go into the details here, I see different tasks that are defined here inside. What I will now do is to take that file again, so it's print1-b, so it's not this file, so I'm going to open the one I'm currently have imported, and it's this file here. So I have this file. Okay, I see I made, let me first show you one first thing. You see that since I've imported and created an Agile file here, I have the definition of sprint files, which are here defined. I have here below different tasks that are defined, and if I go into the task board view and I want to see the task board sheet, I have a limited number of tasks. So I imported the wrong version of the file that I wanted, so I'm going quickly here to change this. So I delete the task, and here I'm saying okay to this, and here I'm going now to import sub-project, this version here. I'm going to check if I have more tasks. Yes, that was the correct file to import. And I'm going now also here to remove this file, and I'm going to take here the file I imported. what I'm going to show you right now, it's how do I create an agile file with Microsoft Project. So for this, I'm here going to delete the task once again, that one. Yes, I'm deleting it. And now, if I want to create an agile sub-project, what I'm going to do here, it's to create a new project. I can, here you see, define a project which is a sprint, and you find here the definition of the sprint planning we had before. And here now I can define a first task, which is plan sprint 1. With that, I'm defining a task. I'm adding this task. I'm defining a second task, which is review sprint 1. And I have a task which is the training on the microcontroller. I'm adding that task, and I'm also adding the task design general architecture. Like that, I'm adding the task. I'm also adding select dev kit. I'm adding it. And a last task is order dev kit. And of course, we end our sprint with the review, which was already defined here below. You see that here I can play with the order of the different tasks here, and I have here tasks which aren't defined in any sprint for the moment. So this file, I'm going to save it into training, and I'm going to name the file IoT PTZ training, the version in English. Saving the location just for the demo. And now, if I go into the master file, which is here, I can here inside come into project. I define the sub-project, and you see we went directly to the last location. I saved something, so I'm going to integrate this file. And if now I look at the different tasks, you see that we have here the list of the tasks on which we were just working. With that, you've seen now how I do integrate a sub-project, which is defined as an agile sub-project, into a master project with Microsoft Project. This is it. This is the way to integrate. In further modules, we are going to evolve with this project. We are going to evolve with the knowledges I'm going to transfer you about agile methodologies. We are also with this going to enter in the complete world of project management from Microsoft. This will be really interesting because there are many other tools, and in this project we used also different tools from Microsoft to do the project management. There are tools that anyone that has Office 360 has, like Planner, and there is also the evolution of MS Project, which is project for the web. There is project online, and there is also the really interesting integration of project into teams, because the key element in that kind of project and in many projects is communication between people. And for that, the different tools that we have in the Microsoft project environment, they really allow us a good communication within team and within different teams and with the management. It was Christian from Vision 6D. I'm glad that you followed this session. It's a pleasure for me to share with you those knowledges, and I'm looking forward to see you for another modules. There are already plenty of videos on project management, on Microsoft project. All what is left to me is to wish you a great day. Bye-bye.